Zoe Sullivan is less than impressed. I know it's hard to believe that Zoe would complain about anything. We know Zoe to be the kind, loving, happy-go-lucky lady that she is, but today she was less than happy-go-lucky. She was a little bit whingy. So what's happened? Her child is going through the mill at the moment. Joseph is trying to get diagnosed as a neurodivergent child, specifically autism, and they're struggling at the moment. They're struggling. Zoe tells all. Hey guys, I sit before you today making an impassioned plea for help. As you all know, I've been working on this channel for many years, but we are under some very real threats right now. People trying to take us down behind the scenes, and with your help I need to try and keep this going. For just $3.99 a month you will receive all the perks that you could ever wish for. You get your very own emojis, you get your very own badge that says you're a member. You get access to a live chat in Discord, chat with me and other members. You get access to a whole back catalogue of video clips which I've put together myself, and you get so much more. If you would like to contribute to helping this channel grow and continue and not have to go under, because that is a very real threat right now.
If you have been following, you'll know that we are currently going through kind of the diagnosis process, the autism diagnosis process with Joseph. It's a really long waiting list, really long process.
It is, Zoe, it is a really long waiting list. In some cases it can take years. Are you waiting? Are you going to be prepared to wait that amount of time to get your child diagnosed? Quite a lot of people in your comments will diagnose Joseph as being non-autistic. Are you prepared to stick your life on the line, stick your neck on the line and say that he definitely has autism? Several years, Zoe?
Just really long. So from very first chat referral with health visitor GP, it's probably been 3 years maybe. Obviously the actual sort of referral to pediatrics, I think he was first seen 2 years ago.
Just to add, I think it's a ridiculously long wait for anybody to have to wait for these services, because if you need help, you need it now, right? A child definitely cannot wait several years to get diagnosed for anything like this. It's stupid, it's silly, they need more resources, but that's another topic for another day. That's just my personal opinion.
Possibly. I have done videos on this before, so I haven't gone back and seen exactly. But we first noticed signs with Joseph when he was probably about 18 months, 2 years old, probably. Things that maybe I put down to just being like a toddler, and sort of realising actually that doesn't sit right with just toddler behaviour. And then I had a chat obviously with the health visitor, and then after that maybe the GP. I can't actually remember, to be honest. But yeah, the first referral and first time we saw the paediatrician was probably about 2 years ago. Something in my eye. Obviously we've seen her again this year, and the problem seems to be with Joseph, because he's homeschooled. The problem is there isn't that extra third referral.
There is, however, a reason why there's an extra referral. You know, you just can't diagnose them yourself. You need somebody else in a professional capacity to say that yes, he does have all these markers of possible autism. There you go, take him, try and get him the help that he deserves.
Or input, if you like. So I know it's very different in different places. And last time I put a video out, at the end of the day, I'll get slammed for things anyway, especially when I talk about Joseph. I get slammed by certain people, and then also there's a lot of people that know what we're going through, and there's also a lot of people that are in the same boat as us. So I'm going to carry on talking about it, even if people come for me.
You carry on talking about it, Zoe. You carry on talking about it. I'm not going to come for you. Nobody else is coming for you even. Zoe, you do you, and that's all that's important, isn't it?
Or whatever. And sometimes I feel like I ought to be armed with all the information, but to be perfectly honest, I can't always remember her. And I'm sat in the car, and I could go home and look it all up. I can't always remember the names of everything and all those sorts of things. And I kind of envy people that know all the proper names for things and people and stuff. But the letters are at home. It says it on the letters. Anyway, I'm not a medical professional at the end of the day. So I think for some areas it works that you get a referral with CAMS, and then obviously with like the school, and there's like another sector, if you like, that it's all sent off to, and they decide and they give a diagnosis. But here, Joseph has been seen by the paediatrician, but because he's not at school, there's not that school report element, which is why it's been more difficult. He has been seen by occupational therapy, so he does have that input. Obviously there's our input, which kind of should be enough, but
oh, but of course, Zoe, of course, your input is the most important aspect of this. You know, God forbid, you need a professional's opinion. You know, it's like when you can self-diagnose cancer these days, don't you know? I'm not comparing autism to cancer for all those who think that that's what I'm doing, right? But, you know, you can self-diagnose cancer, self-diagnose broken legs. You can self-diagnose all sorts of things. Who needs doctors anyway, when you've got Zoe and Ben?
You know, we're just the parents. So paediatrics, the paediatrician referred him to CAMS to see if they could have any input on it. So we had our first appointment with them today. We had a choice appointment with them, which is basically where you go along and decide whether they can help, which kind of department to put you in, all those sorts of things. Like your first, it's not an assessment or anything else like that. It's not kind of going into too much. It's just literally to see what they can do, where they can put you, where to refer you to, kind of thing within the service. And to be honest, as really nice as the lady was, it was pointless, because she said they don't CAMS now here in Murray.
Gordon Bennett, Zoe, was that the place name where you live? You know, who knew where you lived? I thought you had a big problem with people doxing you, and you're very, very keen on doing it yourselves, aren't you?
Don't diagnose children with ASD or autism. They used to, because I remember years back, they used to, because one of the older ones went through the process as well, and they did used to diagnose there, but I think COVID, longer waiting lists, etc, means that they just don't do it now. So she was very much like, I don't really know what we can do, because we don't do diagnosis or assessment anymore. So
I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow this story, but who referred you to CAMS then if they can't help at all? Did you not research what they can and can't do? Am I missing a part of this story?
So she was like, I don't really know. We can't really help in this process. We don't have any more information. We can't really help. And she said, I don't really understand why, you know, a diagnosis can't be made without that sort of third party. The problem is it's all bureaucracy, isn't it? It's got to be those 3 bits of paperwork. It's got to be, nothing can be outside the lines. Everything is so institutional within like government systems and the government, schools, education, NHS. Everything is so institutional.
All right, I get what you mean, Zoe. I get what you're talking about, right? But suggest an alternative, something else, because nobody in their right mind is going to let parents all over the country diagnose their children, right? That's just not going to happen. And autism and ADHD and things like that, they need actual opinions of other people. It can't just be the person concerned, because, you know, they need somebody who can diagnose them. So tell us who is going to be the person that's going to diagnose your child if it's not the way that it's set up at the moment, because you seem to be very bashing towards the schools, the NHS, the government, all the institutions, but you don't seem to be offering an alternative solution, which you must have in your head, because otherwise why complain about a system?
That it has to be done this way with this paperwork and like this. And as soon as somebody steps outside of the lines or steps out of that a little bit, like because we homeschool, nobody seems to know what to do. And everyone's kind of like, oh, you know, I don't actually know what we're supposed to do here. And we can't do this because you're not following the rules, if you like. You're not following what everybody else is following. And it becomes very difficult. And as I've said before, lots of people say, you know, why are you wanting a diagnosis if it's not, you know, the diagnosis part isn't that important to me. We already manage well with Joseph. We have lots of systems in.
Oh my God, Zoe, more than one word at a time. He would be at school. Stop, just more than one word, please. It'd be so much quicker. I mean, I know that I can rabbit on with the rest of them. Sometimes I just go on and on and on and on, and people probably switch off with me too, right? But come on, I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to get through your crap here, Zoe. I've been requested to do this video. Please make it easy on me, because it is driving me up the friggin' wall.
In place to help him. The fact that he doesn't go to school, I think, has made him a much calmer, more peaceful boy. You know, if he had gone to school, he wouldn't be the boy that we've got now. I know he would have really struggled. He reminded me very much of Toby when he first went to school and used to hate it. He used to cry all the time, all that sort of stuff. It was awful. But I persevered, because you're supposed to send the kids to school. Back then, I didn't really know anything about homeschooling. It never even crossed my mind, to be honest. Before COVID and all that sort of stuff, I knew that I hated sending them back to school, and I hated putting him into school when he was so upset all the time. But you know, that's what you're kind of told that you have to do. You're following the rules. You're following what you think you're doing the right thing. Obviously, with age, more children, different circumstances, I've realised that actually it probably wasn't the best thing for him and for quite a few of our children. Some of them have done really well at school. Some of them, school just wasn't the place to be, because school, unfortunately, it's, you know, it's very much, if you are academic, you can follow the rules, you can keep up, you can do all of that, you're going to do fine. But if you can't, then it's going to be difficult. And that's, you know, I didn't want that for Joseph. I knew that it would be an awful thing for him. So the reason that he is the boy he is now, he's gaining his confidence, he's growing in himself all the time, is because of the systems we have in place at home. That's not to say that he doesn't have bad days, because he does have bad days. He had quite a bad day the other day, and I, you know, we are still at a loss with how to help him when he's having a meltdown. He's very much, he doesn't like anybody being near him. He doesn't want you to touch him. He doesn't want you to talk to him, nothing. So it's very, very difficult. But, you know, we do have lots of things in place to help him, and we take things at his pace. I know that I'm fully 100% confident in the fact that that has, you know, the fact that he hasn't gone to school has helped him, because he would be anxious, he would be nervous, he'd probably be overwhelmed all the time if we had sent him to school. But anyway,
I have my very own specific thoughts on this subject, but I'm refraining from putting them out into the world. But if you have opinions, please let me know in the comments down below. That would be lovely.
This process just seems to be the reason that we want that diagnosis for him, actual diagnosis, because lots of people come onto my YouTube and my Instagram or that say that, you know, he's not autistic, you're just doing it for this and you're doing it for that. Really think about it. You know, this is just another one of those lines that come from their website that we should not name, made up things. The reason I want him to have a diagnosis is because one day he might choose to go to school, or he might choose to go to college, or he might, you know, any of those things. I want him to be able to access the support that he needs. I also want him to know that, you know, people will try and label him and say that there's something wrong with him.
Aren't you trying to label him though? You're calling him autistic. He hasn't been diagnosed yet, and yet you're convinced he has autism. That being said, yes, I agree. If he needs help in the future, having a diagnosis would be helpful. And additionally, it would help him understand what is wrong with him, and all that I do agree with.
I want him to know there's nothing wrong with him. He just doesn't process things the same way as everybody else, and that is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. This is the problem with the kind of neurotypical world and the neurodivergent world, is that, you know, we always say, people say, oh, you know, normal children and children with, they're not, none of them, you know, it's not normal and not normal. That's not, you know, no, not at all. Who's normal at the end of the day? There's not a normal way of dealing with things. You've got a typical way. Most children typically act, but nobody's normal at the end of the day. Normal's boring, but, you know, that's very much how it's still classed, and I don't want it to be like that. I don't want him to feel like that. I want him to know who he is, and that there is a reason that he doesn't always process things the same way, and that's absolutely fine. And like I said, I want him to be able to access support should he need to be able to access support as he grows up, or we might need to access support for him, and that's the main reason. But out of today's appointment, not really much has come, to be honest. I kind of feel like we're back to square one again, in that nobody seems to, this whole process is just so long, and you're just pushed from pillar to post, and nobody really knows what information to give you. Nobody really knows how to handle you, because you're different as such, because you're homeschooling. You've chosen a different path, which is a better path for my children, and I know that, and I know lots of people don't agree with that, but I know that it is. But it's very difficult to know what to do next, to be honest.
You are very right, Zoe. Joseph is your child. You know what's best for him. You know what to do best for him, and you just go ahead and do it. That's fine, absolutely. No problem with that. Other people might disagree with my perspective on this. But the thing that I do disagree with wholeheartedly is obviously you talking about Joseph's possible autism. even though he hasn't been diagnosed with anything just yet. But the possibility of him having it, that's a personal medical problem that he has to deal with, and that's not for you to put out there. You have to wait at least 10 to 12 years, really, until he can consent to that. So if you could do that, that would be lovely. Thank you.
I mean, obviously, they don't give you any information or anything, any sort of judgment or anything when you're there. And she was lovely. She was really, really nice, and she took down lots of notes. She asked lots of questions. You do kind of feel like you just go over and over the same questions with just different people every single time. And I am quite conscious as well that we're always talking in front of Joseph, and he does understand what we're saying. So I always try and, they always want to know what are the things that he struggles with. And I always feel quite bad because I think there's so many things that he's really good at. But it's always kind of, what is it that he struggles with? And you think, well, yeah, but I get that that's why we're all access and support and all that sort of stuff. But equally, I always try and, like I said to her today about how good Joseph is at like reading and at his jigsaw puzzles and things with his hands and Lego and stuff like that, and how good he is, because I'm conscious that he sits and he listens when you're having these appointments, and you're sort of saying they want to know what he struggles with and how he copes with this, and you're talking about his meltdowns, which he struggles with anyway, because he knows deep down that he doesn't want to be having them, but he can't help the fact that everything gets so overwhelming that he has a complete meltdown. But it's not nice for him, it's not nice for anybody, but it's not nice for him. And then you kind of feel, you're talking about it in front of him, and you just feel like you're just going, it's like a speech, you're just going over it every time you meet somebody in a new department. It's just the same thing every time. And I mean, some parents are like really prepared and they have notes and everything. I'm not one of those parents. I go in with just what's in my mind, and maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe I should go with lists of things, but I'm not that parent. I never have been, to be honest. Everything that when I talk about things, it comes from my heart. When I talk about things, it comes from, knowledge and what's in here, really. So, that's just me. That's just who I am. But yeah. So ultimately, they said they'd get back to me today with where we should go next, because obviously she said, if we write a letter and everything else, it could take weeks. Every single appointment takes weeks, doesn't it? Weeks and weeks and weeks to come through. I mean, like Isabel's still on the waiting list for orthopedics about her knee. She's been on the waiting list for over a year. It's a year since she was referred, and it was 6 months to even get her on the list. That's just for an appointment to see about it. Meanwhile, she struggles with her knee. She doesn't ever make much of a deal about it, but she does struggle with it. She's 17, and I know COVID, the NHS is in a mess, everything else, but it doesn't help, does it? Everything just is made so much more difficult, so much longer. Every waiting list is so much longer, and it's not the people in the job, is it? It's the whole system, unfortunately. But yeah, that is where we're standing at the moment. So I'm still trying to process everything myself, to be honest. I do find I'm one of those people that comes out of an appointment and I've got lots of information in my brain, if you like, but it takes me a while to process it. It takes me a few days to kind of properly process. But not much came out of it, to be honest. So we're just kind of back to square one. Yeah, I think we're no further forward, really. So we'll just continue to wait, I guess, really. I mean, in the meantime, Joseph's doing really well. He's happy. We had the occupational therapy. I'm sure I did a video on that. We had the occupational therapy appointment, and that was really, really helpful. Just in kind of cementing a lot of the things that we do for him and with him, that we were doing the right things, if you like. And given us some more ideas for other things that we could do to help him. But just to know that you're kind of doing the right thing, pointing you in the right direction, that's a big help. So we had that appointment, had some follow-up from that appointment. And in general, yes, he has bad days. Everybody has bad days at the end of the day. You know, he's doing really well. He is doing really well. He's getting on really well. He's happy. And that's the main thing. And all the rest of it will come. He's doing really well with his reading. He's doing really well with his maths. I know that if we'd put him to school, they would immediately start saying that he was behind. Do you know what I mean? And he's not behind. He's where he should be. He just, he struggles with, I've spoken about how he struggles with his pen grip and things like that, but he's getting so much better. He just needs more time. That's all. And he's very much a little and often kind of child. He doesn't do well at sitting for long periods of time. So we just get in there when we can with him. But on the flip side of that, it's like the occupational therapist did recommend things like small Lego for helping with his grip in his hands. And he loves doing that. He loves doing jigsaws. Just absolutely loves them. He also loves those Minecraft blocks that you can get. The magnetic blocks. He loves building stuff out of them. So does Florence. And he's, like I said, he's happy. He's happy. He's content. He's just him. And that's fine. And the rest of it will come. And as far as the diagnosis goes, it is frustrating that you kind of just have to keep repeating yourself all the time. And that you just get pushed from one place to the next. But in the long run, we're doing it for him. So that's the way you've got to kind of think about it. And in some ways, I do feel that because he's not at school and he's got us kind of there with him all the time, that it's what I'm trying to say is it's a long wait, and if he had been at school, it would be so much more needed to have that help and support there, because I know that he would have struggled being at school. But because he's at home, it's not that he doesn't need help and support because it's at home, but in some ways, he's fine. I've got pen on my head. I must have had that on my head the entire time. Look. Anyway, I don't know why I've got pen on my head. But yeah, I do sort of feel because he's at home, we can support him all the time. I'm not having to put him somewhere else where I don't know whether he's getting the support or not. That kind of does make it not quite so bad having to wait. I know there's lots and lots of people in the same boat who have children at school and are fighting for them to get the support that they need. And it's just the system is, that system is broken down as well. And it's just kids are not getting the support that they need. Left, right and centre, really. And I know that there'll be people listening, watching this, who know exactly where I'm coming from. And that's why we talk about it. I mean, there'll be the few that criticise me and that say this and they say that and say I shouldn't talk about it and, all the rest of it.
Well, you shouldn't talk about it, should you, Zoe? You know that. You don't need us to tell you. I mean, you shouldn't talk about it, but not for the reason that you don't know if he has autism or not, mainly because it's not your story to tell, is it? It's just not really. Let's be real, Zoe, it's not. So if you want to talk about autism on a general scale, right, you can do that because it's you know, you don't have to involve your child. You don't have to show your child and say, this is my child, he may or may not have autism. You don't have to say any of that, right? You don't even have to say his name. You don't have to identify him as, my child Joseph may or may not have autism. You don't have to say that. All you have to do, and it's very simple, it's really easy, and you just say, I've got a child, he is such and such age, I guess, and we're fighting a diagnosis of autism at the moment. We're going through a big struggle. Have you got any advice for us, please? And things like that. You know, non-identifiable. And you can do that with all of your children. I've got a pair of twins. They are 9 years old at the moment. They like to do schoolwork and things all day, and take walks down the docks with Ben, things like that, right? You don't have to say their names. You don't have to say what they exactly like. You don't have to say who they are, or the birthdays, or share any intimate moments with them. You don't have to do any of that. You just talk, right? You like to talk in front of the camera. I can see, I can tell you like to talk in front of the camera. You're very confident now these days, aren't you? But you don't have to tell us anything about your kids at all. No names, no date of births, no middle names, no school names, nothing, right? Nothing at all. There you go. Problem solved.
But whatever. People need to speak. People need to speak about things. It's not, you know, something that needs to be shied away from. It's not something that needs to be brushed under a carpet. It's things, people are there. We are here, you know, to support other people. Right,
okay, so I actually agree. Things like this need to be made more aware of. And, you know, back in my day, they weren't talked about at all. If you had autism, it was something to shy away from. I'm glad it's not now. So, you know, yeah, for that reason, talking about it is a good thing. But talking about it in respect of your children and their identifiable information, and putting it out there which of your children have this or may not have this, is not fair on them, right? They cannot be an advocate for autism or any other disease or illness or anything like that.
For people to support us, so we can give out advice, so we can give support to other people. You know, that's what the whole social media world is for, and world obviously in general, but so much stuff is online now, and that's the good part of social media, is the support that's there for people, for us, for other people. I see people in the comments supporting each other as well, and that's the good side. And sometimes it's difficult. It's really difficult sometimes. That was a fly or something. To especially with everything that's been going on at the moment, it's very difficult to see that sometimes. But we really do appreciate all the support. This is a whole kind of not new ball game, and I see lots of traits in some of the other children now, and I think maybe I should have gone through the diagnosis process with them, and maybe I should still do that. But again, like I've said before, I'm a different parent now than I was 10, 15 years ago. I was very much, you know, institutionalized, if you like, play by all the rules, do all the things that I thought I should be doing, all of those things. You know, Ben was in the military, everything was as I thought it should be, whereas now I am different. I've seen kids go through the system, and the school system, the education system, and some, like I've said, have done really well, and some have been just spat out, you know, hung out to dry, and it's not been pretty. And this isn't, you know, an education post as such, because that's probably an one for another day, but people change, things change, your views on things change as well. And as we have got older, age has probably changed us a bit, made us a bit more laid back, and maybe a little bit more confident in our own abilities, of what we are capable of. and what we want for our children, rather than letting other people decide what we want for our children. But you know, it doesn't come easy. Once, like I said, once you've stepped out of the norm, people look at you differently, very differently. People look at you differently. People start questioning what you're doing. People start questioning you. People start accusing you of being crazy and all sorts of stuff. At the end of the day, we just want what's best for our kids, and that's what we always want. So that's what we will always, you know, they are everything, and getting it right for them is the most important thing, to be honest. And that's what we'll continue to do. But yeah, that is update for today. I'm going to sit and wait for the girls to come out now, and then we're going to go for a nice walk, because it's not raining like it was forecast.
Brilliant. The one takeaway from that, Ben, if you are editing this, and I know you are, right, please, please, for the love of God, edit out Zoe's gaps in her speaking, right? Usually it's the ums and ahs that annoy me, but it's not quite that now. It's the gaps where she's thinking about the next thing to say. I get it. Sometimes I have like a brain fog, and I forget what I'm saying, and I go off on a tangent sometimes, and it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. But it's just annoying, Ben, you know, especially when I'm trying to, like, you know, mock your video. It's so hard to get through. But also, on a serious note, if you want to grow your channel, you're not going to do so with Zoe's little, you know, ditties. It's not happening. Anyway, yes, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this Joseph situation. Have Cam's been harsh on the Sullys? Has Zoe's words been too harsh on Cam's? Or none of that actually happened? Anyway, right, let me know in the comments down below what you think, and subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. Don't forget to come back next time for another video. Until next time, have an amazing day. Take care of yourselves, and bye bye.